It's the middle of December. We have had so many freezing cold nights here in Nashville, and yet there is still a lot to harvest from the kitchen garden, even though I am totally behind on my planting and my garden chores. So come on into the garden with me. Let me show you everything you can harvest even after there's been a lot of frost and cold temps. All right, so first up we have Tuscano Kale. This is Tuscano Kale's time to shine because the pests have mostly died. They've been killed by frost. And if you notice, these leaves are finally healthy. There's no holes left. They are just thriving and doing their thing, even though it's freezing cold, and there's new leaves coming right through the center. So if you can hang on, you can see these leaves here are covered in pests. They got all eaten by pests. But if you can just hang on, let the plant keep growing, then you end up with these pest-free leaves that are so healthy and good for you all through the winter time. This celery was planted from seed back at the beginning of the year, and now here it is in December, still thriving. This celery gives me side shoots that I can cut from each and every week to make smoothies and celery juice and just to use in a typical veggie plate. So this celery is so good for you throughout the winter time, and it clearly does not mind getting frost. It hasn't been covered, it hasn't been protected, and it is still sparkly, shiny, and looks as good and delicious as ever. Next up we have curly parsley. This parsley is so strong and has lasted through so many frosts. I've come out here and literally seen ice on these leaves, and look at them. Now that the sun has come out, you would never know it. Parsley is a biennial, which means it won't go to seed. It doesn't want to go to seed until it's been in the garden for 2 years. So this is great news for us as gardeners because it means it's going to want to stay in the garden as long as possible. It is made to be strong and to resist dying when it gets cold and when there's frost. So I've been using this parsley every single morning for my omelets. I use it to make chimichurri sauce and as garnishes. I have parsley in almost every single one of my raised beds, and I've been enjoying it all year long, and now I still get to enjoy it at the very end of the year. So most of my Swiss chard has moved out of the garden, but this particular Swiss chard, this dark deep red, has stayed and thrived. Swiss chard is also a biennial, meaning it wants to stay in the garden as long as it possibly can to create seeds in its second year. So these leaves are succulent. They are full of antioxidants. This kind of color is what you want to be consuming in the winter months. It's so good for you. It increases your body's ability to build immunity and to be able to fight off all that stuff that's lingering in the cold air in the middle of winter. So it's a good thing the Swiss chard is still thriving because we should be eating more of it. These green onions have been growing in this bed all year long, and I just come in and regularly cut the greens for use in the kitchen. Some of them will turn into bulbing onions, but for the most part, I grow them just for the greens. And you can see, even though they're kind of floppy from all the frost, they still are full of so much fragrance and so much taste and are wonderful for winter dishes. So frittatas and soups and stews and stir fries. This is the perfect way to bring the garden into the kitchen even when it's super cold outside. Oregano is a plant that never stops giving in my garden. I've been cutting from these oregano plants all year long since like February, and here they are in December and they are still packed. I've harvested from these plants again and again this year, and look, I can still cut so much oregano even here in the middle of winter. So these are perennials, meaning they want to stay in the garden for many years. I started these as small plants in the corners of each of these beds last fall of over a year ago. They died back in the coldest part of the winter, came back right away, and it's provided literally heaps of oregano for me all year long. And now here I am almost at the end of the year, and I've still got more oregano. Next up is my favoriteest plant in the world, rosemary. If there's any plant that smells to me like hope in winter, it's rosemary. And this plant pushes through and hangs on through the coldest temps. I mean, look at it. It doesn't even look phased. And we have had temperatures in the very low 20s for days and nights on end. So rosemary is one of my favorite plants. It is a smell that literally brings me back to my grad school days when I would be so depressed, having the hardest time. There was a huge rosemary bush on my way to the cafeteria, and I would just yank off some branches on my way and then keep them in my hand and smell them to get me through the day. And this is before I was a gardener. This is before I knew anything about gardening. And it was just a survival mechanism that my body, my brain just knew I needed. And so now, now I have loads and loads of rosemary, and I still have this practice of cutting it, smelling it, and just feeling better. And you're gonna feel better too. So we're gonna cut some of this, bring it indoors. And the best thing about this plant is even if I cut everything off, it's gonna come back again very strong in the spring next year and the year after that. And then again, the year after that. Chives are still hanging on. They're a little droopy because of all the frost, but they are still alive and well. And so I'm just going to cut from them, harvest them, and instead of trying to use them fresh, because they have lost some of their vivaciousness, is that a word? So I'm going to dry them. I'm just going to put them in a dehydrator and dry them out so I can use them in all kinds of dishes throughout the year and still get great use from them. Chives are perennials. They're going to come back literally tomorrow. They're going to die back a little bit when it gets really cold, and then first thing in the spring, not even spring, just when the weather starts to warm just a little bit, when the soil warms up just a bit, these chives will start thriving again, coming up from their roots. And so I can harvest all I want right now, enjoy them dried through the winter, and they'll be back in no time. Sage is another perennial herb, and I wouldn't say it is as strong against the cold weather as rosemary, but you can see it's got these bumps on its leaves. That's called being a Savoy leaf. And it's really held on through all these cold nights that we've had. So you can see it's even got new growth happening here on the main stem, lots of little leaves. And so there's plenty still to harvest, and then lots new that's still growing. The sage will come back in the spring. So I can harvest all I want, bring some inside to cook with, to dry, to enjoy through the winter. And then I know that these plants are going to keep producing for me well into the new year. So this is our smaller herb container. I just have this out here to show how people can grow herbs in the smallest little containers. And you can see how this sage is just thriving and still doing its thing, even though it's in a container that likely the temp got way colder inside this little container because it's contained. So sage can hang on when the temps go low, and now I get to cut some, enjoy it, and then watch it come back next year. I've been harvesting thyme all year long, and look at how green and lush this plant is. This is at the back of the garden, so I think I harvest at least. So it's the most prolific of all the thyme that's left in the garden, and it's time to harvest the thyme. So this will come back in the spring, just like the other perennial herbs, but right now it's giving loads of leaves that I can harvest and use fresh or dry, and then it'll be back again very soon next year. You're not going to believe this fantastic plant that's growing and thriving despite my neglect. It is a broccoli, and oh, is she so happy. My goodness, this broccoli is just doing her thing every single day. The leaves look great, and look, there's even a ladybug here hiding out on this leaf. I just saw her. She's so cute, eating aphids. I love it. So this broccoli I planted, I think it was the very beginning of September. So October, November, it's been 3 months. So just over 90 days. I planted from a little seedling, and look at her. She's just so happy. So I'm going to harvest this, bring it indoors, and we're gonna have the most delicious broccoli stir fry ever right in the middle of winter. And there's been loads of frost. So broccoli does not mind frost. You can see these leaves are not frost burnt, maybe this one a little bit, but really not in the least bit. This plant can hang on through any kind of frost, and it gets sweeter and better over time. I've tried growing broccoli in the spring, and in all the climates I've grown in, maybe with the exception of Chicago, it warms up too fast for the broccoli and ends up going to flower before I get a nice round head like this one. So I think I'm just going to do fall broccoli from now on. Put it in August, September, get this incredible head of broccoli. a few months later and live happily ever after. All right, here we have it, my most neglected garden, covered in frost 4 weeks, and still look at all the harvest. I mean, this thing is so heavy, I don't know if I can even hold it. We have got all the herbs. We've got oregano and rosemary and thyme and sage and some chives, and then we've got greens, we've got kale, we've got Swiss chard, we've got celery and parsley, and then we've got this fantastic broccoli. So I don't know about you, but this basket is making me so hungry, and it's also reminding me that the garden is totally worth it. I need to stop neglecting my garden, because even when I neglected it, it turned out into all this good stuff. So just think what it would produce if I actually gave it a little bit more attention. And that's what I'm going to do right away. Now, if this inspires you, then you've got to check out gardenary.com. We've got loads of resources to help you grow all year long, including an incredible free resource that's a Gardenary calendar. You only give us 2 dates, and then we customize a planting calendar just for you. It's completely free, and it's at gardenary.com/calendar. Also, check out my 2 books, Leaves, Roots, and Fruit and Kitchen Garden Revival. Kitchen Garden Revival is going to help you set up a kitchen garden like I have, and Leaves, Roots, and Fruit is going to show you what to grow in the garden. Leaves, roots, and fruit. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you'll subscribe, and I hope you'll come back and watch my next video to show you how much you can grow in your own garden too.